Okay, well, we are going live with CTLILL here on the 1st of February. We have Greta Lundgaard as our expert here to talk to us about setting functional goals today. And I'd just like to take a minute or so to go through our agenda and make sure that everybody knows how we're going to be organizing our meeting. The agenda is up on the screen right here, and there are links to different articles that we were going to use to activate our learning. So the whole point of this meeting is for us to use leadership to develop our own leadership through active learning. So before this meeting, hopefully people got a chance to read the 2 articles so that we can learn independently. And then we're going to turn it over to Greta and have a chance to be able to learn together. Throughout the meeting, if you'd like to contribute to the 4A's protocol, I'm going to scroll ahead and just show you what that protocol looks like. You can grab any bullet and just start typing. If you'd like to type while we're listening, that's great. If you'd like to type afterwards, we're going to have time to be able to write and reflect on this afterwards. I have people who are not muted. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so hopefully you are all muted now, even the newcomers to the call. And so as you're listening, if you'd like to take some time to think about what are the ideas that you agree with that Greta is sharing, what are some of the ideas that you would argue about that you are still struggling with? What are some of the questions that you would like to ask? And then furthermore, how can you apply these concepts to your work? So again, I put some bullets in there just to make it easier since we have 30 people on the call right now. You could certainly go back and add to this later, but we'll have time to take about 5 to 10 minutes after Greta's talk so we can stop and process our new learning. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Greta. And we will start the portion of our meeting where we're going to think about new learning from an expert before moving on to reflection. So I'm just going to switch the presenter to you, Greta. Make you the presenter.
Okay, I'm good now. Hey, everyone. I guess I'm ready to show my screen. Hi, everyone. Hope everybody has warmed up from last week. Let me go ahead and make sure everybody is seeing my screen here. How's this looking? And I haven't gotten their screen back. So how do let's see, I want to make this T-night. See, there we go. Here we go. Sorry. There we go. Now I can see. Can y'all see my screen?
Not yet. Let's see.
Screen. Okay.
There we go. We got
screen
it.
Sharing.
Perfect.
We got it? Okay, perfect. Excellent. Excellent. And Karen is monitoring the chat. And so what I have done is I have put in a few slides so that we can prompt ourselves to pause for chat questions, and there are not any at that point. We'll just go on. And this whole right-left thing is bothering me here because y'all know that's my learning disability. Okay, but anyway, all right, here we go. And I'm trying to keep track of myself. Okay, so our topic today is designing lessons and tasks that have functional goals and objectives. And I just want to say to start off with that we're going to approach this from probably maybe a little bit different angle than we would have before. Okay, so now my PowerPoint is not going forward. There it goes. Okay, so I can't see you guys, so that's okay. I'll just keep going. I really liked how Helena kind of organized everything with the central ideas. And I'll be sending a PDF of this document to Leah to post somewhere if she needs it. Oh, good. Here we are. But here's the basic things. First of all, that functional goals and ideas clearly specify clearly the language and activities needed to support and meet the communicative objective. And if we design with learning targets that describe these communicative objectives, then our instruction is going to focus on performances. So here's where we're a teeny bit different. And this is so bizarre because it's not going to go forward unless I do that. So here, that's fine. So what I'm choosing to focus on today is not the language function so much as backwards design, because I think there are some nuances and some maybe new things to backwards design stage 1 that we may not have widespread attention or growth on, that really can make a difference with stuff. So here's our focus questions for today. How does backward design support the development of functional goals and objectives? And we'll talk more about those functional goals and objectives later on. And then how does teaching for transfer impact proficiency growth? I am so glad that this is where I ended up,
Greta.
because I was just in a conversation last week with colleagues, and we were looking at lesson planning.
Greta?
And, yes,
I just
can
want to
you
make
hear
sure.
me?
Are you starting to advance your slides yet?
Yes, can you not see anything?
Yes, they're not advancing. So,
Okay.
so let's
Yes,
see.
I have.
Are you full screen?
What I had to do, I was full screen, and it is advancing, but y'all aren't seeing the advance. PowerPoint isn't advancing. I see everyone. Let's see. Go to meeting.
So, should she be?
I'm not quite sure why it is not advancing.
Are you in full screen? Did you press play at the top? There we go. Now it advanced.
Can you see me now? Now it advanced? Okay.
Yep. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
That's why we started a little bit early. Okay, so functional goals and objectives. And we're going to talk a little bit about learning targets and how they connect to everything. See, but when I push now forward, it's not going. When I have it like this, it won't go. Crazy. It won't advance. So, you know what we could do? Can y'all see this when I do it this way? Can you see this? Can you see the screen? That screen's fine. How about we just do it this way, and instead of going to presentation view, let's go to this view, and if everybody can see that, is that okay? Let's see if y'all can see that. Oh my gosh, it's still, what it's doing, Leah, whenever the screen is up, it is not advancing. Maybe I can do it this way. Resume slideshow. Are y'all seeing, is it advancing now? Did y'all see it advance? Yes. Everyone's saying yes. Okay, I'll just try to do this. Thank you. So here's our focus questions back again. Focus question number 2, how does teaching for transfer impact proficiency growth? And I can't see you, Leah, so type me a chat message if something's wrong and I need to adjust. So in this conversation last week, we were working on lesson plans, and we're talking about how does a teacher know what the goal is for the day? And how can I formatively assess? And as we got deeper and deeper in our conversation, somebody said, well, we don't teach for transfer. We don't teach for transfer. And so then that made me start really thinking about why don't we teach for transfer? So the main thing we're going to be talking about today is understanding by design, backwards design, stage 1, and the 3 different kinds of goals we have in stage 1. And I think that may be something that we have not paid attention to that will really help us, because I'm going to maintain here that we can't develop proficiency in our students or even good performances unless we teach for transfer. Otherwise, we're just going to have that regurgitation of what I taught you. And I think this is kind of really impactful. And then our last learning target, our last focus question for today, how do acquisition, meaning, and transfer goals guide unit development? And I'm changing my slide now. Everybody see it? So here's our learning targets. I can explain the significance of the 3 types of goals. Great. Thank you, Marita. The 3 types of goals that make up stage 1 of UBD, backwards design. And then I can describe the connection among backwards design, functional language goals, and proficiency growth. I think it's easier to fix language goals. It's easier to fix that, and they're easier to see when they're not functional, than if we omit thinking about transfer. So they do all link together, but I think when we talk about begin with the end in mind, sometimes we're oversimplifying. So pretty much everyone is hopefully by now familiar with, UBD, and I am right by a school zone, so if you hear a police siren, that's just someone getting a ticket outside, so no one get frightened or anything. Anyway, so here's UBD. Stage 1, identified desired results. Stage 2, acceptable evidence. Stage 3 is the learning experiences. We've made a shortcut here. Stage 1 is our end in mind. Stage 2, here's our assessment, our summative assessments that are going to tell me if we met our goals. And then stage 3 are all the activities and things that we do while we teach, right? Well, I'm going to maintain that we have not paid enough attention to stage 1. Even though we know that stage 1 and 2 are the most important pieces, we still put most of our time in stage 3, where we're identifying activities and we're looking at what can we do to engage our students, which are all good goals, and they're all great things to talk about. But if we have not paid enough attention to stage 1, then our stage 2 is not going to be right. If our stage 2 isn't going to give us what we want, then our stage 3 is all for naught. This question, what is my definition of desired results? If we were doing this in a workshop where we were sitting around face-to-face with one another, we would do some brainstorming on this, because I think we have to really know what our desired results are. And we need to remember or kind of pay attention to the fact that UBD can work for a whole course. I can say, what are my desired results for the end of level 2 or whatever level that is? Or it's really began as a unit plan. So we're thinking of unit plans. At the end of this unit, what do I want my students to be able to do? And we can also think about it in terms of a week. What do I want them to be able to do at the end of the week? So this is a flexible model, but I think the important thing is stage 1. And so since we can't brainstorm with one another, and I'm keeping an eye on my time, here are the desired results that Eileen Glisson proposed in her session at CTLILL when she talked about this. First of all, she said these desired results for world languages needed to be stated in terms of a learner-based performance objectives. She said they need to describe what learners will be able to do, and then she listed some things here. Real world tasks, they need to be real world, and I'm going to encourage everyone, instead of real world, maybe because we're really not in the real world, we're in the classroom, unfortunately, maybe start thinking of that as authentic tasks, or tasks that students this age in the target culture would be doing. Okay, just food for thought there. Meaningful context, not expressed in terms of grammar or vocabulary, and can be assessed. So this is directly from Eileen's, Dr. Glisson's presentation on this. And I'm bringing this up again because just even this week, as I was kind of preparing for this, I found some unit plans that, well-intentioned people who are posting online, and this was, like the first unit in a level 1 class in Spanish. Here were the function, and they were labeled functional goals. Students will be able to properly greet one another. Students will be able to state where they are and others are from using SER, all caps, SER, S-E-R, very important. And students will be able to follow and identify classroom commands. Part of me is not sure any of those are functional language goals and objectives. And then I kind of searched a little bit deeper, and this one, again for level 1 class, students will be able to share information about their food and drink preferences. Okay, good. Students will be able to ask about and identify ages. Well, okay. Students will be able to ask questions with proper verb and subject order. Again, I see grammar here. So we're going to come back to some of these and talk about what is a functional language objective for our folks. Because, again, that's part of stage 1, right? Part of stage 1. Here is, I have just one visual. I'm a visual person.
We've heard over and over and over again, begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. And sometimes we think that's all we have to do, is just begin with the end in mind. I want my students to be able to introduce themselves to others. This picture you see right here is a picture from 1970 of Dallas, Fort Dallas, and this is the intersection of I-75, which is a major highway, and LBJ Freeway, which is the loop around the city. And at this point in time, you can see it was very direct, very easy, and it was not very complex to have my end in mind. I live north of Dallas. I'm going to Dallas. I'm traveling south. I just get on this road here and I go south. I have one entrance on, one entrance off. That's all I need to do. I've got a very simple end in mind. Well, this is this intersection today. And you can see it's not quite so simple. So my end in mind is not quite so direct. It involves a lot of complications. Which way am I approaching from? Where is the HOV lane? What do I want to do if I want to avoid traffic? What time of day is it? Because what time of day it is makes a big difference on how I go. And we could go on and on and on, and I know that you can think of similar analogies, but one thing I think is holding us back from our overarching goal, and I think we would all agree that our overarching goal is to grow proficiency in our learners, right? That's our reason for being. We want them to love our language, we want them to love the culture of our language, but I still maintain that our primary function, our primary goal, is to teach them how to use the language when they need it. And that's still what we're trying to do. So it's become a little bit more complex. This little graphic here really kind of illustrates this better. I really, again, if we were talking about this together in a group, we would sit down and fill this out. But this is something to think about as we're planning curriculum, or even as we're planning our weekly lesson, as we're planning our unit. Filling in this blank. I want you to learn, and here's the blank, here's what I want you to learn, so that in the long run, you will be able, on your own, to use that knowledge too. And I think this is kind of a good test to see if we have a functional language objective and if we're trying to teach for transfer. And an example I kind of went through, let's think of something real simple. I want you to learn family vocabulary. So we're not even thinking about grammar, right? But I want you to learn family vocabulary and then fill in that next blank so that in the long run, you will be able, on your own, to use that knowledge to what? Okay? Not a right or wrong answer, but just fill in that blank. It even becomes more exciting, I guess, if you want to think about it that way, when we think about grammar structures. Very commonly found in Level 1 textbooks is a whole little thing on demonstrative pronouns. I want you to learn demonstrative pronouns so that in the long run, you will be able, on your own, to use that knowledge to, I'm not quite sure, okay? And the second half of our sentence, this is the do part. I want you to learn something. Here's knowledge that you need, and here's what I want you to do with it. So just food for thought, and we don't have time to keep going on and on with this now, but just food for thought about that. So remember our little graphic here. In the olden days, I could say, I want you to learn the family vocabulary so that in the long run, you can use that knowledge to talk about your family. True. But how far does that get us? And we really need to think about what is it really behind me wanting you to learn about your family. Is it so that you can describe yourself? Is it so that you can describe how families work in the United States? Is it so that you can compare family structures in your home culture with family structures in the target culture? So there's just a little bit more that we really need to talk about. here's the graphic that I feel really kind of puts this in place. So here's stage 1, and this is in, some of you probably are familiar with this already. This is in the second edition of Understanding by Design by Wiggins and McTighe. Another thing we really loved about Grant Wiggins and we still love about Jay McTighe is they continue to refine their practice based on what they see. And they say now that really there's just not one type of goal in stage 1. There's really 3 types of goals, and they're interrelated, and they go together, they connect together. Acquisition goals, meaning goals, and transfer goals. So now when we say that we're going to start with the end in mind, now we can't just really say, the end in mind is family vocabulary, family members. Because if I'm just looking at this goal, and I know the word acquisition means something very special to us in world languages. Is everybody seeing me, right? I know it means something to us in world languages, but in Wiggins and McTighe, this is the know and the do, right? We'll get into these more. So knowing family members is an acquisition goal. It's not a meaning goal, and it's not a transfer goal. So we really need to look at our goals in a little bit different way. And I think if we do, we will find that we can move proficiency forward, because now our goals are transfer goals instead of just acquisition or basic knowledge goals. Here's where I kind of put a pause in. I've been talking for about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Maybe just 1 or 2 that we can answer now, or should we just go on? I don't want to overstay my time. We've got to spend some more time talking about this. Why don't we go on and explain a little bit more, unless I get some negative thumbs down, and let's talk. Okay, I'm going to have to turn this off because for some reason, there we go. Okay, this is one of the documents that, yeah, we're going to go through that. Thank you, Amanda. I've got this down in my notes, functional language goals. Go over those again. I've got a whole section of those at the end. Okay, this is a document that you received. This is from version 2.0 of UBD, and I've adapted it a little bit to make sense for what we do in our district. So I'm going to define for each unit then that I have in world languages. I'm going to define the transfer goals, meaning goals, and acquisition goals before I even can do my assessment pieces. I've got to know. And the most important thing in these boxes are the words in italics. So here's the key to transfer goals. Students will be able to independently use their learning too. And the key word there for us is independently, without me cueing them, telling them what to do. But this is really my road to proficiency, right? My road to proficiency sits in transfer. So if I'm not teaching for transfer, my goals aren't aimed at transfer, it's going to be really difficult for my students to get forward and move up the proficiency scale. If I'm just teaching for concrete and then asking for concrete back, then the meaning goals come next. And this is where we've heard of these before. Understandings, enduring understandings, and essential questions. We've heard about that, and I'll show you what we came to an agreement on in our district. But then I've added a second column, and this is why it's adapted. I've added a second column. Here is our focus questions. These are our focus questions for the unit, and these are questions I want students to be able to answer in the target language. This is the meaning I want my students to get out of this unit. And then we have what we call true learning targets, which also are the meaning targets. And they're a little bit different from can-dos. And so we're going to touch on each one of these. And then if you look at the bottom, here's my acquisition goals. And again, by acquisition, it is kind of the same because these are the pieces of language I want my students to acquire, right, with automaticity. I really like this graphic because it really respects our students' cognitive abilities. We're not going to keep them at acquisition. You know, they're in the 9th grade, they're in AP Human Geography, and my test is all about colors and clothes. That doesn't quite, fit. The difference between an essential and a focus question, I'm going to show you some examples that I hope, the best way for me to explain that in a short period of time is show you examples and non-examples. So let's move forward, and in your sheet, you should have in your page that Leah sent you, this is the fully filled out one, so you can kind of be looking at that as we go. And she did email that to you. So let's start talking about transfer, because if I'm beginning with the end in mind, I have to start with my transfer goal. This is really the end in mind. What am I going to teach them in this unit that they will then independently be able to use in other contexts and other settings? This is a game changer, really, if you think about it. So here is, definition of transfer goals. First of all, a transfer goal is where I adapt knowledge, skill, and understanding, right, from a specific context to other specific contexts and realistic situations. Okay? So I'm going to adapt my knowledge and skill, adapt what I own, or we can say apply, if you like that better, to specific and realistic situations and contexts. So my aim is, this is where I'm giving real world challenges, audiences, purposes, and settings. Transfer is going to make all of that happen. Okay, this is where I take the information I know and I'm going to apply it in a different setting. And we can still do this at novice level. So in order, here are my characteristics of transfer. If I know I can do them, I'm able to demonstrate an effective, efficient, and flexible repertoire. Now, yes, it is hard for novices to do this. We're going to talk about near transfer and far transfer. Novices can only transfer very short distances, but here's the key. They've got to be able to perform independently. So my prompt for my transfer task is not detailed. It's detailed enough for them to know what they have to do, but I do not give them any cues. I don't say, remember to use the appropriate form of the past tense, or remember to use the appropriate past tense form. Oh my gosh, and this is tough here. They're able to handle context not previously rehearsed. We're going to practice. We have to practice in class. I agree. We have to. But how I can really know if you learned is if I give you something that's close to what you've practiced, but not exactly the same, and then I can see if you can apply what you've learned in this new context. That's basically the difference between near and far context. Transfer. In novices, first of all, level 1 novices, they probably can't do very much transfer at all during the first semester. They don't know enough, right? But even by the end of level 1, they can do near transfer. They can do near transfer, pretty near transfer. And the key is to not practice the transfer task in class. I really can't practice it. I'm going to show you a transfer task in a minute, and you'll see. And they're able to demonstrate the degree of competence or proficiency, however you want to think about it, within a performance transfer task. So I've got transfer goals, and I write them first. And then I write my transfer task first. So at the end of this unit of study, this is what you're going to be able to handle. And then now this is the end I have in mind when I practice. So if you look at the document, this unit plan, filled out, and I just want to say, this is what we do. That doesn't mean this is the only good thing. Lots of people are doing lots of good things, okay? But this is what works for us, and this will help guide you as you go. It's the best way, really, in such a short time. So here's what I want them to be able to independently to do, and this is a level 2 unit. In fact, this is the unit that the students are in right now. And so here's their transfer goals: to give advice and recommendations for a positive change, or something positive, to make connections between choices and their consequences, and to compare previous and present habits, routines, and choices. These are my transfer goals. Those are big goals. This is the big end in mind. And why these are transfer goals is because I can take these now, once I learn how to do these things and apply them to other contexts, not just the context of my unit. We're going to assess these within the unit, okay, but they're also things that you can transfer to other units. So here is our transfer task. Because we share this unit plan with parents, we don't detail out the transfer task on this unit plan. So this is what students get after they've done this unit of study. Here's their transfer task. It says your friend Nicolas wants to become more successful in school and in life. He asks for your help in identifying what he needs to do. To guide you as you make suggestions, you went to his Instagram and collected photos that illustrated some of his past habits. In your response to Nicholas, identify what he used to do based on his photos and suggest areas he needs to and should improve based on his past choices. He wants to be more successful. So how am I going to, based on what I see he's done in the past, what do I suggest? We give him a graphic organizer. Would they have a little slideshow of fake Instagram photos? They choose what they want to talk about, and then they either talk about it or write about it. And you can see, if you had time to study within this prompt, then, and we're going to hit them in a minute, the things that they would have to do. We have honors and on level, level 2. So this is the on level task. Here's the honors task. The honors task, as you see, we don't differentiate in terms of task between on level and honors because we want students to be prepared to go into the AP track no matter where they start, right? So it's the same thing. He wants to be more successful. He asks for your help. And to guide you, you go to his Instagram and collect photos. Now, we're the teacher, we have collected these photos. So the students don't actually go do that, obviously. So here's all it says in the honors version. In your response, include what positive consequences he can expect after he makes the changes you suggest. So you see, the honors task is much more open-ended. Okay, we don't give them the 2 detailed suggestions that we give to the on-level kids, but the task is basically the same. So this is our transfer task. So that means in class we are not going to practice this specific task at all. We're going to practice the skills that you see in these habits. I'm sorry, in these tasks. Okay. Any chat questions that we have that we can answer or that you can record, and then we can come back and answer these when we have time, because I'm looking, I've already almost talked 30 minutes and we've just gotten through transfer tasks. And
I do see the one there from Greta. I do see that Marita is asking, what is the difference between the essential and the focus question?
I would say when we look here, let's look at the meaning questions. I'm going to go ahead. If you look at the handout, here's the meaning section. Here's our meaning goals. And to someone's comment that it seems like we're not asked, I'm not sure if you're saying we as in me or world language folks in general are not asking students to apply what we teach them. So I'm not quite sure of the audience of that question, but we'll just clarify and we'll respond to that. So here you'll see, obviously my timer is done. Here's the enduring understandings and the essential questions. What made sense to us in our district as we work with curriculum, the enduring understandings and essential questions for every unit are basically the same. So our enduring understandings, as we define them, are things students 10, 20 years from now are going to recall about learning languages. They may not take any more language after they leave high school, after the setting. So we have 3 enduring understandings. Good speakers of another language are aware of culture and cultural differences when they communicate. Effective practitioners of another language rely on many strategies to communicate information, wants, and needs. And becoming a comfortable user of another language takes guidance, time, and practice. We really feel like those are enduring understandings. We decided to not focus on content, okay, because we didn't feel like students are going to necessarily remember content in 10 years.
if they never take Spanish again or never take French again or German again. And then our essential questions are the same thing. This is maybe not the most elegant statements here, but basically our essential questions for learning languages are, how do I make my meaning known to speakers of other languages, and how do I understand their messages, and how do I understand what they're trying to communicate. So the left-hand side stays the same for every unit. So the difference is our focus questions are the questions that are about the content of our unit. So for us, our enduring understandings and essential questions are not content or even level specific. Level 3 and 4 added another enduring understanding, but they, yes, across the entire curriculum. This is our goal. I mean, it's the same. Learning languages for us have these same enduring understandings and essential questions, no matter what level, no matter what language. Upper levels, level 3 and 4, add an additional enduring understanding because their proficiency level is a little bit higher, and I can't recall it at this very moment, but it's right in line with that. So the focus questions, now these are the questions that organize the unit. What did I do previously that I need to do differently now? And the title of our unit is It's a Whole New You. Okay? So what did I do before that I need to do differently now? I'm a 9th grader, I'm a 10th grader. And then what choices can I make to improve myself? Then we have our learning targets. So the focus questions and the learning targets go together. So focus questions, students will keep considering those two questions. And learning targets, they will demonstrate that they can. So these are not really can-dos, even though it is I can make connections between health choices and consequences. I can make connections between behavior choices and consequences. That's my content. And then I have skill learning targets. I can ask for, give, and understand advice. I can give opinions and preferences and ask about those of others. I can tell others what they should, can, or need to do. I can describe people, places, objects, and events. And I can relate a past event based on a prompt. Everyone, ears probably perked up because we work on past tense in level 2. That's just the way we do it. Lots of folks do it a different way. So you can see by these two columns side by side, the philosophical underpinnings, I guess, if you want to think about that, the guiding questions for our whole course of study are on the right-hand side, and then the content targets are on, the left-hand side are on the right-hand side. So for me, this is our functional language objectives. Okay, so for someone who had a question, what's an example? These are pretty dense ones. I can make connections between health choices and their consequences. We feel like that is something that responds cognitively to the age of our learners, and we can build a curriculum around that. So these are our meaning goals. So let's go back just a little bit. So this is the blank organizer, all right? And so here's what meaning goals can bring to the table. This is my ability to actively apply my learning. So meaning goals, in order for me to transfer, remember we're working backwards. So in order for me to transfer, I've got to be able to actively apply the learning and make it personal to me. So that means I've got to ask and pursue the most helpful questions. I've got to connect ideas, draw inferences, create new understandings, actively apply learning. That's my key word there. And so my aim is that the learning is framed by the questions and learning targets. So that's my focus questions and my learning targets. That frames the learning. Okay? And my goal is for them to have active learning experiences that will lead to the ability to transfer. Okay? If I keep that in my mind, I'm not teaching just so they can identify healthy foods and unhealthy foods, even though that's a nice task. But I want them to do more, not just identify, but maybe I want them to talk about how eating bananas can be both healthy and unhealthy. Okay? I need them to go farther than just identify, label. Okay? So, and I'm going a little fast because I know it's already 4 o'clock for you guys. Just type in those chat questions, and I hope looking at the example helps. Hopefully I can, and maybe I can see people giving me a thumbs up or down. Just looking at the examples help. Hopefully. I know this is fast. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so we've gotten this. Let's go to, I'm sorry, let me show you, sorry. Leah, were you going to say something? Here's an example then of my meaning-making task, of my assessment, my stage 2 assessment that responds to my meaning goals. Okay? It's leading them and giving them the skills and the practice. This is a summative assessment, but really a formative assessment, because my transfer task is my ultimate summative performance task. So this is a formative. You probably had some healthy and unhealthy habits when you were younger. Using the graphic organizer provided, which is blank, by the way, there's nothing in it. Note the eating habits and physical routines you had when you were younger on the left side. In the middle column, decide if this habit or routine is healthy or unhealthy. On the right side, note if you still have this habit and why, or if you change this habit and why. Use this information to compare your prior habits and routines with what you do now to be healthy. So this could be a writing task or a speaking task. This could be an interpersonal task. But this is my task that's going to help make meaning. And if you looked back at our meaning goals, this is learning target number 1. I can make connections between health choices and their consequences. So in this task, I'm assessing, can they do that? Okay? I'm assessing, can they do that? And also, notice I'm practicing the past tense. Okay? Because I'm talking about what you did when I was younger and what I do now. Lee, did you have a comment? Anyone?
No, Greta, I think that as I'm listening to you talk, it seems that this would be absolutely applicable for any content area. Having just gone through exams for business, for history, for English, it just seems to me that so many of our goals, we have these lofty transfer goals, but when you really, like the Grant Wiggins blog stated, you really look at the tasks that we're asking them to do, we're really staying down at the lower acquisition goals. And the word acquisition, I think, trips us up from the world language standpoint. But
yes,
that does mess with us with regards to proficiency. But when you're thinking about it from the UBD point of view, so many of the exams that I was just looking at focus so heavily on those acquisition goals and really did not provide enough opportunity for students to get up to the meaning goals or the transfer. So I think that this actual conversation could be listened to by history departments or by math departments and have pretty much a great impact on them as well.
And I'm responding to the question about why do I say learning target instead of can do, and why do I say it's not a can do? A can do is not necessarily a learning target. And if you read the literature or the research on formative assessment, they define learning targets very specifically as a learning objective that can be broken down into a learning progression. And I'm going to show you you saw the learning target for this assessment right here. Let's go back. And you can see the learning target, whoops. There it is. The learning target here is I can make connections between health choices and their consequences. Okay? Formative assessment guys, gurus would say that is a true learning target because I can break down that learning target and build a learning progression. So inside that learning target, you as teachers, you're probably sitting there going, okay, so I know what I need. First of all, I need healthy eating. So I've got to have, what foods are healthy and what foods are unhealthy. Not just foods, though. It says health choices. So what about exercise? What about stress? What about all? So I'm thinking of vocabulary sets, right? I've got to make connections between choices and consequences. Now, I don't have to go conditional, okay? For those who go crazy, I could if I wanted to. I don't have to say if, blah, 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 then. I can just say
bananas are healthy because. And that's part of why I got to know what level I'm at. I'm at level 2, and our performance target, our proficiency target for level 2 is novice high to intermediate low. This is from our state. So I'm not going to use conditional here. I mean, I could, but I don't have to. I can just say bananas are healthy because. Barbecue potato chips are unhealthy because. French fries are unhealthy because, you know. I need to exercise more because. I can use deber if I'm a Spanish teacher and say you should play outside more because, you know, that kind of stuff. So we're always thinking that they're going to be able to do that at their proficiency target. But so this is what really, according to formative assessment, guys, means that is a learning target, not a can-do. So a can-do is going to be underneath that. I can describe healthy foods. I can describe consequences for unhealthy eating. Okay, so here is acquisition, and I think what Leah said, usually this is where we stay. This is where we stay. We stay here, and we give them what they need to know and what they need to do, and we assess them here and we stay here, and we do not have a meaning goal and we don't have a transfer goal. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that students need in order to become proficient. Yes, thank you. The learning target is the umbrella to the can-do statement. That's a really nice way to say it. And it kind of comes down. So here's something we're real comfortable with. I know probably this word acquisition is bothersome. It took me about 2 years to get over it, what it meant, and it just rubbed me the wrong way, but I think I'm over it now, and I understand what Wiggins and McTighe mean. This is the knowledge. This is what I need to do. And the key here is this is what I've got to learn with accurate and timely recall. That whatever target vocab, target grammar, whatever syntactic elements, whatever discrete skills you want me to have, and my aim is automaticity of recall on demand, right? This does not need to be where we stop, and sometimes this is where we stop. So if you look at your filled out unit plan, and another reason this is adapted by Greta is that because Wiggins and McTighe have no on the left side and skilled at on the right side, but because we're proficiency focused, I want the skilled part is to come up first. I want you to see what they need to be able to do in the language with what they know. And then the right side, that's what they have to know. And here you see, here's our vocabulary regarding healthy and unhealthy foods, healthy and unhealthy actions. We talk about things like not getting enough sleep. We talk about stress. We talk about too many difficult courses. We talk about a lot of things like that. So here's reflexive pronouns and verbs, present tense verbs for context. We're going to need some new verbs, but then here's my past tense verbs. We're focusing on impreterite with used to, only used to. I used to eat Cheetos every day for lunch. Now I eat blah, blah, blah. Descriptive adjectives, and we've got to be able to compare and contrast, right? Okay, bananas are better. Cheetos are worse. And here's the skilled at, so I've got to be skilled at explaining. And if you look at the verbs, now we're coming all the way back to functional language objectives. They've got to explain. They've got to compare. They've got to compare. They've got to ask. Okay, they've got to offer alternatives. They've got to express future goals. So I've got to, then we use informal future, ir plus a plus infinitive, or aller plus a plus infinitive, and they've got to describe. So this now is what I teach them and help them practice using, and it all flows backward. They need to do this so they can do the meaning assessment, so they can meet the meaning goals. And then they've got to meet the meaning goals and be able to show me that they can make meaning, personal meaning out of this, so they can hit the transfer goal. So what this does is it makes my activities I do with students different. Okay? Here's an example of, this is an activity in one of our lessons that supports this unit. And so you can see I'm always, always, always focused on proficiency. So part A, this is just the input, okay? Which of these statements are true about you in your past? Which is false? Mark a T or an F. and this is all about for you. And we kind of just made up some statements. And if you can read Spanish, I'm not a Spanish speaker, but I figured out some things. So these are kind of mixed, mostly healthy things, but sometimes just basic things. Like I lived in New York. I used to play with Barbies. You know, I had a dog. I used to not go to public school. I think that's right, very awkwardly stated, okay? But anyway, so they just go through, and so what I'm doing is giving them feedback, giving them input, and then part B is really the critical piece. How could you turn these statements into questions for a partner? Pick 5 you'd like to know about a classmate, rewrite them as questions below. And then, because we're not superhuman and all-knowing and all-seeing, we always say, what other questions do you want to ask? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to take input from my students. What other input about healthiness would you want to ask a partner? So what I'm doing here by this activity, I'm setting them up for an interpersonal activity, and then I can do a lot of things with that. So because I pay attention to transfer, it makes my acquisition activities look different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Should the between the, yeah, definitely, because I use the know to do the skill, and then the skill is what I'm going to assess in the meaning task, right? It all links together. It all links together. And because this is the middle unit of level 2, you know, y'all don't see the vertical alignment between what they did in level 1 and then what they're going to do in the last unit of this year and what level 3 expects. But it all lines up really kind of nicely. And if we have chat questions, I'm kind of looking as we go to see. I think we've answered a few.
Greta, if we, if you'd like, if we could take a few minutes to wrap up, then what we could do is give people a chance to work in that 4A's protocol and put all the questions in there. And then if you have a few minutes to reply to those, that would be great. So if you want to,
let's wrap up here real quick. There's one other piece, and obviously we didn't address functional goals directly, but they're there. But there's one other piece. So here's the 3 pieces. And this is kind of like, and again, I will send this to Leah, so you'll have this so you don't have to. But here's basically, and there's one other slide I want to show you to wrap up. So these are the 3 different types of goals. And I just want to kind of challenge you to think about, are all of my classroom goals in acquisition? Are they only acquisition goals? How much meaning, okay, this is where the functional thing comes in, and am I preparing them for transfer? And then this last visual here, I think it's so meaningful. So if we're looking at acquisition, meaning, and transfer in different colors, okay, one of the things that we've tried to do is we've actually looked at our assessments, we've looked at our assignments, we've looked at our grade book, we've looked at what we're taking grades on, what we're stressing in terms of, is it acquisition, meaning, or transfer? And, you know, these little shapes to the side kind of represent the different proportions that you would have. For instance, the lower left-hand side with the most blue, that might be a level 1 class where the majority of what they're doing there is in acquisition. They don't know anything. But that still doesn't exempt me from giving them meaning tasks, from having meaning goals, and I can do a little bit of transfer. I still can, even if it's very, very close. And then depending on the language level, depending on the content, then my ratios might be different. But this little visual and thinking about how we arrange our classroom, how our curriculums are arranged, how our grade book is arranged in terms of goals and what we're looking at to give us evidence that students are achieving really makes a difference. So,
I think this is
Leah, why don't you take back over from here?
Before you turn off this slide, I think this is the most powerful part of the whole presentation, Greta, because I think we're seeing students fossilize at novice high in level 4 nationwide because of that upper left quadrant where you have the yellow with the transfer. That is not happening at higher level courses across this nation. And if we continue to get people to just regurgitate and memorize grammatical structures and stay in that bottom left quadrant with the blue,
Right.
We are not delivering kids who are proficient after a 4 or 5 year cycle. And the vision
Uh-huh.
was just so powerful.
Yeah, it really is food for thought, because if you think about AP level, if that's your goal, it's all transfer. It is all transfer. And we have to get our kids able to transfer before they get to level 4, right? In order for them to do well.
Yep. Well,
all right, just go ahead and take the screen back, Lita.
Okay, so we have about 15 minutes here, and that you have given us so many great thoughts here, Greta. So we
Well, I
can't
apologize for running over time.
Oh no, this is listen, we're thankful for it, so thank you. Okay, so I'm looking back at our protocol here, if you can see that. Just killing this here. Okay, and so as you can see, this whole meeting protocol is based on the idea of us working together as leaders and really working together to promote active learning. So we got a chance to work before the meeting by reading. Then we got to think based on what Greta has given us. And now what we're going to do is take a few minutes to scroll down here. This is in your document. And it's called the 4A's protocol. I use this regularly in the target language. It's really helpful, but with adults having meetings, if you were, discussing a new aspect of your curriculum or something that like what we just did with Greta, this is a great way to get everybody to contribute. So if you'd like to go in, we're going to take about 5 or 6 minutes for all of us to just write quietly. You can add to any of these bullets here. If you have already added here and you'd like to scroll back up and answer the questions, as you can see, some people have already put their ideas in here, and then there's space for you to comment on the right side where you can write back to a response that somebody else had written. So let's take 5 or 6 minutes right now and have everybody capture some of that learning so that we can process it, and then we'll go full group and discuss it with Greta before we sign off. So. Any questions? Look at the chat here. Okay. All right. Well, great. So we'll all get a few minutes to type now. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna bring us full group again. Um, it's hard to stop right now because there are so many great ideas coming out. I wish we had a little bit more time to keep writing. Um, I'm gonna draw your attention to the four A's here. There's a lot that people are agreeing on. Um, and so what I'd like to do is maybe not put you on the spot, Greta, but if there was anything that's jumping out at you that you wanted to kind of delve into with agree or argue, I'm going to turn it to you in just a moment. But if I'm going to unmute all right now, and if, hang on a second. There we go. I have unmuted everyone at this point. So okay, some of you have a lot of background noise. Okay, so we will let you just go back to chatting. If you have something that you'd like to have Greta address, maybe you could just type it into the chat box because there's a lot in here. This is really rich, and I know I'll be adding to it after we go offline in just a couple minutes. But if anybody wants to have something specific addressed with ask, argue, agree, or apply, then please just jump into the chat box. So Greta, was there anything that jumped out at you that you wanted to address? Wait, sorry. One moment. Okay, there you are. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Real life situations aren't going to be scripted. That's true, but I think we need to broaden our, if you go back and look at those 2 transfer tasks that I outlined for you, it's not that they're not scripted because we have to give them guidance. And one of the things, but I would say they're open-ended. And the students are allowed to give me what they know. I mean, and those are kind of key things because we have to also realize I'm going to look at this transfer task and I'm going to kind of analyze it when I look at it because I'm not giving, too many cues. If I've got kids and they couldn't look at this slideshow and pick out 2 or 3 or 4 things, the most important things for him to change, and then tell me why. If they couldn't do that, they can only pick out one thing, that tells me something. It doesn't tell me that my task was bad. It tells me my teaching was lacking. I didn't give them what they needed to transfer. So that's another reason, for us to go away from unscripted because we're not scripting anymore. I don't know anything we do that's scripted. What we do, I think, is we prompt with support or we prompt with less support. And then if you look at the honors level 1, for whatever that's worth, very little scaffolding at all. We basically said, here's what he wants to do, be more successful. Here's the pictures, knock yourself out. And also tell him what he can expect. So we added that one tag on there. Tell him what he can expect. So that would be maybe just some language we need to consider. And then the AP example here, I need to address this. The comment that AP students have concentrated so much on grammar that they've actually lost some of their automaticity. I would encourage everyone to go look at the AP tests because, number one, they do not focus on grammar. And I think we're doing our students a disservice if we make the AP course grammar review of all the grammar known to man in there. Our students, I'll say, I think we had something like, 450 kids take the Spanish AP test last year, the majority of which were juniors, okay? And we had 10 kids that didn't make a 3, 4, or 5. Okay, and we don't have grammar prior to the AP course. We have the same amount of grammar in level 1, 2, and 3, whether it's on level or honors. They don't need the grammar. They need reading, writing, speaking, listening. They need the transfer tasks. Yep. We do not get advanced structures. We do subjunctive, conditional, and a little bit of that combo thing, in level 3, and maybe formal future in level 3, and that is it. We have totally said and how we guide that. That's with the end in mind as well. Look at your transfer task. Look at your meaning task. What grammar do you need in order to accomplish that task? That is the grammar you focus on.
Yeah.
The things that don't lead, that can't transfer, we don't do. One of the things we've dropped, and I know this is challenging for a lot of people, we do not do commands. We don't have a unit command. We don't teach commands. We don't do commands because they don't transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Commands do not transfer. What does transfer is double verb constructions. So we still tell people what to do, but we're nice about it. We say, you need to make your bed. You should make your bed. You must make your bed. You can take out the trash tonight, you know. And we don't talk about chores. We have responsibilities, which is really what people have. And our students get more bang for their buck by learning from the very beginning. We do this in level 1. How to say, you need to sleep, you need to eat, you should, all the way through, because that transfers. I can use that in level 3. I can use that in level 2. I can use that in level 4. And so we look at grammar now as, does it transfer or does it not transfer? We do not do demonstrative pronouns. We don't need them. Students don't need them to communicate well. You know, I'd rather them use a possessive adjective than a demonstrative pronoun, because at least that communicates something that's personal. So these are all challenging things, and we always, though, look at it to complete the task and meet the learning target. We really don't do any randomness, and our classrooms come from the students. Our learning target guides are our conversation. So.
Well, you know,
Sorry.
you're providing us a perfect segue into next month's theme, because the next core practice is teaching grammar in context and as a concept. So this conversation will definitely be continued. Our next speaker is Laura Terrell, and she said that she's going to be listening to this one to be able to piggyback off yours, because she's actually doing a workshop today. But he wants to listen in on yours, and so we'll pick up this conversation in March, tentatively on March 8th, and be able to keep going with this. I think it would be great if anybody has any time this evening or tomorrow to add to this 4As or to the reflections, the learning template, the sample unit. I felt that was so powerful in helping me to visualize the different types of goals. So some of you, I know, were just opening the document as you logged on today. So if you have a chance to just kind of work your way through that, I really think it will kind of solidify all this new learning that Greta has shared so generously with us today. So I just want to thank everybody for being with us today, and especially Greta, who took such a great amount of time in putting this together between all of her other jobs. So,
yeah, right.
So did anybody else want to jump in? I see Christy's here. You're unmuted if you'd like to jump in.
Hi. Thanks, Greta. This is really, really great. I really appreciate not only the concepts, but also your specific examples. I know that really helps us understand
Thank you.
Exactly what you're talking about, so I really appreciate that.
And
thanks.
I'm switching to Corey, who is also in Connecticut, if you wanted to jump in.
Hi, this is Corey.
Hi,
Can
Corey.
you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting, and I appreciated you explaining the how can-do statements and learning targets fit together. I had been having a little bit of a hard time seeing the difference, so that clarified greatly for me. I'm not sure I have a question at the moment, but I certainly want to say thank you, and I felt like this was very valuable.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Great. And Matt Mangino is on the line as well. Are you still there, Matt? Not sure if he can hear right now. But I see, I'm not sure who's muted mostly everybody here. So if anybody wanted to jump, Matt just typed in the text box, he has no mic. Okay. If anybody else wanted to jump into the text box and say any closing comments to Greta, that would be great. And again, I will send out these minutes with all the attached documents to everybody. And then what we'll do is I'll also be able to share with you Greta's presentation from today, and
Yep.
the live recording will be uploaded to the CTLILL page. So so hopefully we will see all of you next month, so we can continue this conversation. And I thank you very much.